chess. This is the final, the 12th edition of our lecture series, and it's been specifically for people who want to learn to play chess, and I hope I've whetted your appetite and that you'll want to go on from here. This evening's a special evening. I'd like to recapitulate what we've done in the past and give you some indication of what further course of study you could follow. I have with me Corey Stephen. He's an old friend of mine. And welcome, Corey. I brought you along especially, Corey, because there's a lot of students out there watching us and who have been following the course. And I'd like them to know, get some indication of what you got out of our school program. Well, just about, when did you start playing chess yourself?
About 6 years ago.
About 6,
yeah.
So about what grade were that?
I was about grade 7, grade 8. That's when I started getting involved in the school program.
With the interscholastic programs?
Mm-hmm.
And you've been involved in chess. You've taken it quite seriously. Just starting off in the school program,
that's right.
I want to find out where it took you. You played in the local club, and I think you played in a successful high school club.
Right.
You won.
Well, then I started traveling with more tournaments in New Brunswick, and then I traveled a little in Canada, Quebec, Montreal, that is.
What sort of tournaments did you play in there?
It'd be an open tournament for any individual who'd like to go.
Which one? The
Quebec Open.
Oh, you played in the Quebec Open once, or?
3 times.
3 times.
And so you meet lots of strong players throughout 9 states.
These open tournaments attract masters from around the world.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So you've had a lot of national and international experience.
A little, yes, I'd say.
I'd say that quite a bit. Corey's one of our top junior chess players, and he's in his second year at university now. And it shows it doesn't take long to graduate from beginner's chess in the school program right into an international type of tournament. And the experience is just wonderful. You make friends from all over the world.
That's for sure.
And I believe you, you're a good friend of our former Canadian junior champion, Robert Hamilton,
right.
Fredericton. And through him, you certainly met some other...
Oh yes, chess is very good that way. Socially, you meet all sorts of different people.
From all
yeah, you learn a lot.
Yeah. I'd like to show you and the people what we've done in the series. And I have some charts with me. And the numbers that we see on the side are basically follow the lectures that we've had. As you can see, we started off with the basic rules. We discussed the board, how it was to be set up. We talked about files and ranks and the diagonals, the names of the pieces, and a little history of each piece, how they moved, and the elementary things like check, checkmate, and stalemate, the definitions of those. I had these demonstration boards. Remember, we got these demonstration boards from the U.S. Open. And then we discussed elementary mates. And I always find it very important for beginners to be able to play right from the very beginning. Not with all the pieces set up, but at least with a few pieces so that they learn their elementary mates right from the beginning. Like how to mate with a queen and a king against a king, or two rows. Right. And in our second lecture, I started right off with the key position of king and pawn against the king. So, whereas a lot of people find it strange and awkward to start studying the game from the end game, I think I took a leaf out of Capablanca's book, and
right.
This is the former Cuban champion and former world champion. And he suggests starting the game by studying the end game. And the reason being is that you always know towards what you're heading. If you know the type of ending you want to achieve, then it helps you out with the beginning, with the opening and the mid game. Isn't that right? So we dealt with the key position, which gets the pawn down to the 6th rank. And then in the second lecture, just for the opening, we set all the pieces up, and we discussed the ideal type of opening if your opponent allows you to have it, with your king and queen pawns up 2 squares and your 2 knights out towards the center. Centralization and quick development of all your pieces. Early castling is pretty well the ideal pattern to try to achieve. This gave a general idea of how to play a basic ending and how to start the game. Then, for a change of pace, in our third lecture, I discussed the organization of the chess world. This is the International Chess Federation, or we call it FIDE. A branch of that is the Canadian Federation of Chess. Under the Canadian Federation of Chess, we have the New Brunswick Chess Association, our local clubs, and our school clubs. During that same half hour, I discussed different types of tournaments people can have, the different types of literature that's available on chess. I discussed demonstrations like types we've had in the malls. You've played in malls.
Yes.
And I discussed scorekeeping, how to keep score of the games, all about time limits. We usually play a match game here is usually 40 moves in 2 hours.
That's right. Correct.
Blitz chess, which is common in the club, and I don't think I did mention odds games, but I put this down. If a strong player is going to play a weaker player, it sometimes evens things out if he gives the odds of a queen knight, or even a queen rook, or even a queen.
There's a tournament last 2 months ago.
An odds tournament
right.
Here in St. John?
That's right.
Oh, that must have been interesting. So don't be ashamed, I would say to the people out there, that if you are playing a strong player, don't be ashamed in taking the odds of a piece from them, because it equalizes things and it makes your game much more exciting. And then, of course, we discussed computer chess. In our fourth lecture, we got into the middle game. As you can see, I left the middle game to right up to the middle of our series, or well on into the beginning of the middle of our series, because we get into our tactical themes. Mm-hmm. The knight forks, the bishops in the long diagonals, the overworked piece, the sneaker, the pawn push. What have I left out? You know, all the tactical themes, the overworked squares and the weak points. And through our tactical themes, I show different types of combinations. Combinations simply being the accumulation of tactical stress on the board, being able to pull off some sort of sacrifice which leads to winning material or perhaps checkmate. And speaking of checkmate, I showed some of our typical mates in very basic openings. Right. And I also showed some typical mates on castle positions. I always find that people enjoy studying typical mates.
What's the best part?
The best is the slam bang aspect of chess. Then we went on to the fifth lecture, and we went back to the end game. And having discussed in the end game the key position of the pawn on the sixth rank, it was then time to discuss the rule of the square, so that our students could understand whether or not their king could catch a passed pawn before it was promoted to be a queen. I also discussed the sneaker. If we had 3 pawns against 3 pawns, how do we get 1 pawn through? I discussed the candidate pawn. That's if you have 2 pawns against 1. The candidate is the one on the half-open file. You push that first, candidate first. And the passed pawn. Now, of course, I'm simply telling Corey everything that you already know. And I'm sure Corey knows these things also. But we'll go over it, because it's really capturing, in essence, everything we've done so far. We discussed at the same lecture, we went on discussing the opening, whereas before we discussed the ideal opening. I now showed what happens if somebody does not play correctly in the opening. How do you take advantage of this? So we discussed opening traps, which are a lot of fun. And the gambit. The gambit is when you give up material in order to gain space and time. In our sixth lecture, again we went back to the end game. The king and pawn against the king again, but this time, instead of being on the 6th rank with the pawn, I moved everything back towards the original position. The idea being, can the king accompany the pawn to the queening square, or can the opponent's king stop it? In other words, will it end up in the key position that we studied previously, or will the king be able to get in front of his pawn, get the opposition, which I then discussed, and force the pawn through to become a queen? And then, of course, the standard sacrifice of the advanced pawn in order to achieve the opposition. Then in the seventh, we went on and discussed more tactical themes. I set up lots of these positions, if you remember, on the board, and we went to great lengths in discussing the character of each position and what to look for to pull off one of our tactical themes. Then in the same lecture we discussed the nomenclature and the different types of openings. This is important for the study of chess openings, because when you get an opening book on chess, it looks like it's full of foreign words to you. You have Yugoslav, Russian, Greek. You have names of people with exotic sounding names like the Caro-Can opening defenses, the Alekhine or Alashine defense. But all of these are not that difficult if you understand the types of openings, and that each type is usually named after a famous chess player who originated the study of that opening. In our 8th lecture, we discussed the double king-pawn openings. And as you know, for beginners, I think it's best for them to start with double king-pawn openings.
That's a good background to start.
Instead of queen-pawn openings. We didn't go into this too much, but when you start with your king-pawn, the pawn in front of your king, the tendency is for the game to become wide open. It's quick development is very easy. If you start with the pawn in front of your queen, or double queen-pawn openings, you have what we call a closed game. It's a very tight, cramped, closed game. So for beginners, I discussed the double king-pawn openings, the ideas behind them, and the resultant pawn structure. As an example, I used the Roy Lopez. I thought it was interesting, a very brief analysis of both the open and closed defenses of the Roy Lopez, using the ideas in the pawn structure to illustrate what I was talking about. And I introduced the idea of positional characteristics, because up till now, we've just been talking about tactical chess. I wanted to introduce the idea of what tactics can lead to, and how we use our tactical themes to lead towards positional pluses for our games, if we can maneuver it, which gives rise to our mid-game strategy. But this is really for further study.
Right.
I discussed the different types of notation, because the algebraic and descriptive, as you know nowadays, the algebraic is very, very prominent. The descriptive notation in the English books and magazines, you still find it, but I think more and more people are going to the algebraic. I also used some opening traps. I showed some more opening little gamelets, and I recorded them in each method so that the students could understand how to use both methods. The only reason that I showed both methods, not so much that students would use both, but should they have a book that uses either one or the other, they won't be frustrated. Which brings us to 10, 11, 12. Now, these aren't exactly in the order of our chess lectures, because we're now up to number 12, and I'm doing the recapitulation. But I would like to do a little discussion now of what could have been in 10 and 11, but we had half-hour programs. They went very fast. And that's, how does one prepare for a match? How do you prepare? Say you were to prepare a 6-game match against myself. What sort of preparation? Theoretical. Let's take each one separately. You have a certain type of theoretical preparation.
Well, the first thing I would do, I'd look at your past games you've been playing recently and see what your style's been, what type of mood you've been, aggressive, tactically, or positional. And then I would base and say, am I comfortable in that sort of situation, playing in that position? If not, I try to avoid it and try to upset your style. And basically, I don't look at your opening to see what your first
study
moves.
What sort of games I played in the past.
That's
now,
right.
Where would you get these games?
Well, actually, I would ask around my friends, chess players, see you in tournaments playing, and just basically
do a little spying.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you always have spies working for you as well. So.
Which we call seconds.
That's right.
Or friends. Okay. And sometimes your friends could be my friends and give you the wrong information.
Mm-hmm.
This gets us down to the psychological aspect of preparation for medical. Let's talk about biological, because I'm interested in this. And former world champion Mikhail Botvinnik from Russia, in the preface for his famous book on 100 Games of Chess, he talks about biological preparation, which he means really how you should get to your physical peak for a chess match. It's much like a boxer, isn't it?
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
quite a bit of conditioning you have to be when you play in a chess tournament, especially when you play away. You have to get lots of sleep. You have to eat right. You don't want to eat a lot of junk food. You want to get lots of hours of sleep where you're well rested. If not, well, it's like anything else. When you're not well rested, you can't perform properly.
Right, now when you say eating right, you don't want to eat a large meal before a game.
No,
do you?
exactly. Well, everybody
That's
knows
what
you
you
get
mean.
tired.
That's right. So it's very, so you do a theoretical preparation of, you condition yourself. If it's a very major match that you're playing for, you will want to jog or swim or and
Exactly.
get lots of sleep.
Get into a routine, basically, though.
And it's a good idea not to study too much,
Right.
I think, just before a match.
Exactly. Or play a lot of offhand games. Just relax, have a normal day, and try to avoid chess until the big day, and then play.
So that you're getting to that peak.
That's right.
That's fine. Now this is to prepare yourself psychologically, but you also, the psychological aspect that we were talking about, which became famous with Bobby Fischer, where he used the psychology as a force, as a weapon in his match against Spassky, for instance.
Right.
And of course the Russians have been doing that for years against their opponents. There's the famous example of when Robert Hübner from West Germany was playing Tigran Petrosyan, the Armenian representing the Soviet Union. And they were playing in Moscow. And they were playing in a room which was right on the main street, facing the main street of Moscow with lots of noise. And the reason they were playing in that room was because Petrosyan is deaf, and he just turned off his hearing aid, and poor Hübner from Germany refused to play anymore. And I think he was leading in that match, but his nerves gave way.
That's right.
And so that's really psychological warfare. Preparation of style, as much as you said it, you have to see what sort of mood you're in.
Exactly. Or your opponent.
Yes, but you don't want to just play your opponent's just because he doesn't like a certain style. It also has to agree with the mood you're in also.
That's with how you prepare it too as well.
Right, right. Now, offhand games or social chess, a lot of people aren't interested in this. They're not interested in very serious, the hard grind type of chess. Although this is the type of chess which elevates one to an understanding of the art of the game and to the beauty that's inherent in the game of chess. But we can also have lots of fun, and I call this social chess. And there's a lot of chess played in New Brunswick. People play at each other's homes. They never show up at tournaments, as you know. They don't like competitive chess, but they do enjoy playing with each other and trying to get the best of the other. Sometimes we have somebody sneak up to the club. The club, by the way, is at the YMCA, and we meet on Friday nights. But sometimes we have one of these chaps, they come up to the club to learn a few tricks to go back and try on their friends. Right. Blitz chess is basically very fast chess that we use. We each take 5 minutes on the clock.
You try out your new ideas.
And it's not serious, and it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, but it's a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah. And analysis. Well, we're doing chess talk right now. This is chess talk, what we're involved in. Analysis is something else. Analysis might be if Corey and I were to take an evening to study a certain opening or a certain position, and we would just analyze that position to death. We'd go over it and over it and over it, trying to find the truth that's inherent in that position. And for no other reason than for doing it, because it's enjoyable and it stretches your chess mind. So here we are. We've just done the recapitulation of our course, and I think it was a pretty good one, and people should benefit from it.
Well, how would someone progress right now? What would be the plan of action?
Our future study? Well, there are several ways of doing it. One is to buy books and to continue on their own, to come to the club, to get involved with school chess. I've held a series of advanced lectures over the past few years. This chart is an indication. This is only one chart from an advanced course. And actually, what I have done up till now is bring people to the level of being good beginners if they've adapted themselves to the series. But they're still in the beginning stage. What's involved now for further study is to study your positional characteristics of the game and to understand the evolution of chess theories. Remember when we started off, I was saying that we're going to discuss chess as you learn it. And I brought you up to the 19th century. So we've studied the Philidors, and we've studied the Legals and the Roy Lopez's and all the crafty type of chess, the combinational chess. We call this the golden age of chess, of Philidor and Anderson. I showed you some of Anderson's little gamelets. This is combinational play. This is where you are now. Believe it or not, this is where you are now, at the golden age of chess. Well, if you want to go further in the study of chess, I would suggest that you take this type of an approach. Don't skip from period to period, but evolve through the evolution of chess ideas, because it's a natural study and it's natural for your own game. We go from combinational play to a study of the open game with young Paul Morphy, who beat everybody at the time. He beat all the people who were playing at the time of Anderson. We call them the Romantics, the open game. And when the theories of the open game became well known, and as you study them, even with your friends, you'll find that you'll be drawing a lot of games. No one will be getting the advantage. This happened and during the years of Steinitz, Wilhelm Steinitz, and he said, well, this is no good. What's happened to chess? Everything's drawing now. So he introduced some new ideas, and he kept the game closed. He kept it tight and closed so that there wouldn't be an easy draw. Anyone who knew the Morphy principles of the open game could probably draw if they were very good chess players. At the world level, at the world match level, they didn't want draws, they wanted to win. So Steinitz introduced the closed game, and so that's your next thing to do, is to study the principles of the closed game. And it's pretty hard to find anything by Steinitz, but if you find works written by Dr. Siegbert Tarrasch, you'll find that Tarrasch discusses Steinitz's theories. We call these people the classicists, and they're around the turn of the century. From the classicists, we find, after the First World War, we find the young hawks wanting to disprove all the former theories, and this is the way it is with everything. And we have people like Nimzovich and Reti. This is a Russian, this chap here was a Czechoslovakian. And we call them the hyper-moderns, or they call themselves the hyper-moderns, really. They were tired with the closed, restricted game. So they said, well, let's play a flank game. Now, a flank game is still, the theory is still occupation of the center and centralization of your pieces, but you do it from the wings. You place your bishops on those long diagonals, so you attack the center from the wings. This is the flank game, and they were known as hyper-moderns. They didn't last too long because the neoclassicists came along, especially in the form of Capablanca, who I think lost only 14 tournament games in his career. He was a phenomenal man. He was from Cuba, died very young. They were Capablanca, Reshevsky, who was still playing today from the United States, and as I mentioned, Petrosian from Russia, who was Armenian. A whole bunch of great technicians evolved. We called them the neoclassicists. They were great at being able to keep the draw in hand. Anytime they felt there was an imbalance in the position, they were able to reestablish that balance. So they were called great technicians. Now we come, for want of a better word or term, to the eclectics, the great tacticians. Not that these people were not great tacticians, they certainly were. But notable with Alashine and Carey, Botvinnik and Fischer, and I suppose you could put Korchnoi and Tal and Karpov in this category. Karpov was our present world champion. I thought previously, up to a few years ago, he would be a neoclassicist, but I would put him up here now. An eclectic is basically, for those who don't know the meaning of the word, is someone who takes from all the other schools and exerts his own personality into the game using the best of all the schools. And by the study of the modern masters, a lot of whom are eclectic in this style, you have to know all the other basic theories of chess and see how their personalities are the things which are foremost in their game. Certainly Fischer had such fantastic results against great chess players, by the mere force of his personality. And he made moves in his games which we can't understand why he got away with some of them.
Right.
So, yeah. So I would suggest if you wanted a further course of study that you go through a serious study such as this. You can find literature pertaining to these different eras. You can attend lectures that are being held in the city periodically. You can always write to Play Chess, care of myself. It's Post Office Box 7025. And we'll be able to get you in touch with people who have books or where you can get these books or attend lectures. So this gives someone a fairly good basis for further study, don't you think? Now I have a surprise for you, Corey. I have another chart here. I'm going to lift. Now I have a name not here, which was Anatoly Karpov. He's our present world champion. Karpov became world champion when Bobby Fischer refused to defend his title. He refused to defend his title after he won it from Spassky because he didn't agree with playing conditions. And he hasn't played any chess since. There's a great parallel between Fischer and Morphy in that they came to the top very early in life and then seemed to just disappear. We often wonder if Fischer will ever play again. He certainly produced some of the most beautiful games of chess in the world. But this chart is hot off the press, Corey. As of this taping, I might add, one of these players will be facing Karpov for the next World's Championship bout, which will be held when? Next year?
Next year.
Next year. So between then and now, these 8 players have risen to the top of world chess through a series of elimination matches and tournaments held throughout the world. We call these 8 the candidates of 1982. Very interesting is Harry Kasparov, a very exciting young chess player. He's 19 years old, and his star is certainly on the horizon. We expect great things from him. I don't know much about Alexander Belyaevsky. You know anything?
No.
He's an unknown quantity as far as we're concerned. I'm sure, though, if we went to our books, we'd find material on him. An interesting name here is Vasily Smyslov, who was world's champion in the 50s.
55.
In 55, I think so. And here he is back in the 80s, vying for the title again, which is remarkable because in chess you have to have, well, you have to, as we were saying, you have to be at the peak of your physical condition. And for an old-timer like Smyslov to be right up there is really something. And so is Torrey. Torrey from the Philippines is no youngster. Here is this Robert Hübner, despite his nerves from Moscow, is back in it, representing West Germany. Well, actually, these people don't represent their countries; they represent themselves. Although you might say that that the Soviet state really uses their chess players to represent their system, their political system, which we have seen through Korchnoi. Viktor Korchnoi played the last 2 matches against Karpov, lost both of them. The one before the last was extremely close, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Some exciting chess. And I think a lot of people are familiar with Korchnoi's name. He is now living in Switzerland, and his family is now out of Russia. But during the last match against Karpov, they were holding his family in Russia as hostages, practically, while he was playing Karpov, so that the psychological pressure would still be on him. Lajos Portis from Hungary, he's been on the horizon for quite a while, and a magnificent chess player, and I imagine from all these names we'll see him probably up near the top.
The problem is he's inconsistent, though. If he's playing well, he'll be in.
If he's playing well, and also who are his seconds? It's interesting that there are 2 from Hungary, you see. Zoltan Ribli, we've seen him in our chess magazines for quite a few years also. But the youngster in this group is definitely Harry Kasparov, and that's a name really to be reckoned with in the future. But one of these chaps next year will be playing against Anatoly Karpov of the USSR, our present world's champion. And whoever it is, it will provide, I'm sure, exciting chess and new chess theory, I might add. Mm-hmm. from every World's match, we usually have some new ideas that come into our chess mind. So what do you think of all that?
Well,
Good? Would you like to play some chess?
that's right. Let's play some blitz.
Okay, let's set them up. I should mention that in blitz chess, what we do is we set up the hands of the clock, of each clock, 5 minutes before the hour. The reason being, in a chess clock, I should explain to you again, they're like stopwatches. And when Corey makes his move, he pushes this button, which starts my clock going. When I move, I push my button, and Corey's clock is moving. You can see the little red marker, perhaps, moving, going around. As the game progresses, you'll see the hour hand will come up towards the 12. The little red flag is rising. Now, we are playing back and forth. We each have 5 minutes on our clock. Whoever flag falls first loses the game. Whoever flag falls first loses the game, regardless of the position on the board. So there's two ways of winning in blitz chess. One is to checkmate your opponent, and the other is to win on time. So you may take as long as you want in one move, but if you do that, you're going to play very fast on your others. The idea is we each only have 5 minutes on our clock. So the most a game could take is at the most 10 minutes, or a little less than 10 minutes. So Corey, you want white first?
Sure.
There you go, kid. A queen pawn game. Doing a queen pawn game. Okay. Let's see if you know what you're doing. This is called the coal opening, one of his specialties.
Just developing pieces.
He's going to give you a commentary. I'm going to push to get a head duo. And we'll keep the center going. We'll keep it like that. I don't know what I'm doing. Do you know what you're doing? No. We're supposed to know what we're doing. Now, as you see, the hands have hardly moved at all on the clock. But eventually you'll see that as they get up towards the 12, things will start to happen. That's nice. He is now threatening Watts. You can have it. Corey's won a rook.
My objective now will be to exchange material because I'm winning.
That's a good idea. Corey's going to exchange because he's winning. He's up a piece. I have a pin on his queen. If possible, get your rook on the same file as the queen. He moves his queen away, which is not a bad idea. I'll push his queen for want of something better to do. This now becomes very difficult.
Still, not too much time has been used, so.
Very little. It's not. We're playing very fast, folks. Very fast. Of course, in tournament chess, one doesn't play like this at all.
No, in fact, it's very slow. You may spend up to 20 minutes on one move alone.
That's right.
Funny things happen in Blitz.
Funny things happen the way they form.
That's right.
It's not too bad for you. I get the exchange, but he's got 3 pieces. You notice the tactical themes. The rook on the file where the queen is.
I'm still ahead,
His
so I like
advantage
to...
now, of course, his advantage now is the 3, besides the piece. He can always give the piece back because he's got 3 pawns against 1. And his 3 pawns against 1 will easily win the game. Shouldn't it?
I hope so.
No, you hope so.
Well, I'm still ahead in material, so I want to exchange.
He's looking for the exchange. And we'll make things easy for him. At least split the pawns. I have 4 pawns against 3 on this side. And he's in good condition. Take the 7th? No. It's time to bring out the king. The king has to watch the queening square, the opponent's queening square. But white should win this game.
You put me on the spot now, Dan.
You have to win this game. I won't talk to you if you don't. That's good.
This is to stop your king from moving over.
And my rook is on the 7th rank, my 7th, in order to keep his king in. He's got his rook on the queen file, which stops my king from coming over, allowing his pawn to advance.
And notice Danny's flag is starting
And
to
now
move.
I'm using more time and doing a lot more talking. Right. You notice my flag coming up? His has just reached the indicator point there. Corey has protected this, his C3 square is protected by the knight so that my rook can't come and stop the advance of the pawn. I have to attack his knight. Check. And in blitz, of course, you don't have to say check. But we'll... Now I'm running short of time. And he protects this. You notice? Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You notice the minute hand getting up close to the top.
Check.
I am running out of time. Do you notice his minute hand is also coming up close to the time? I do that for time purpose. Now it's a matter of time. It's harder for him to win with just a knight. We're both fighting the clock. Keep your eyes on the clock. He sacks. He's going for his queen. Notice he's in front of his pawn. I would, in a tournament game, give up.
Key position.
Key position is correct. Watch the clock. He's got his queen. Watch the clock. He'll stalemate me. Yeah, you notice the clocks now. I'm going to stop the clock. We each had just seconds to go. We each had seconds to go, and then the white logically was a checkmate. But he could have, even with the queen and the king against the king, could have lost on time.
And my flag would have fallen.
And the flag would have fallen. Thanks very much for joining us in Chess Talk for the past few weeks. And I hope you really enjoyed it and you get a lot from it, and you'll play chess for a long, long time to come.